Welcome, welcome, welcome to another edition of Wealth Strategies Unleashed with Concenture Wealth Management. I'm Robert Gilliland, and today, beyond excited because we have a ton of clients who are asking questions about what is crypto, should I be in crypto, where is it? And we are so fortunate to have none other than the one, the only, Marianne Bartels, who we've had on previous podcasts that we had great responses from. And Marianne, thank you for joining us. We're really excited to have you here.
It's a pleasure to be back.
And so kind of to bring everyone kind of up to speed on exactly the presence that we're talking with here. You were one of 11 people named as an Oracle of Wall Street. And one of the things in kind of going through and preparing that is so amazing is all of the different awards that you've had. But one of the things that stuck out to me, which is really appropriate, throughout your entire career, you have been a thought leader and on the cutting edge, and that leads us into crypto. Tell us a little bit kind of about how you started thinking about crypto, why, and kind of where you are in that journey, if you will.
So I remember when Bitcoin was around $200. I don't remember what year that was. And I was kind of looking at it. At the time I was at Merrill Lynch Bank of America, I really couldn't talk about it, so I didn't do a deep dive. But my initial instinct was, I'm like, this is the way we're going to go digital. That's what hit me. There's something here digitally that I think will be the new wave of the economy. And I didn't do anything about it. I retired. COVID happened. Hung out for a year. And after that, I was bored. And I said, I should really look into this crypto thing. And I signed up for a class, and then I took another class, and I took another class. And what I liked about this class is that they made us actually trade it. Like I had to go on to systems and trade it. I had to transfer and move stuff because that really gave me the tangible sense. But I remember when I started it, I almost had, I did. I had a headache because it's a new language. And the other time that I can compare this with, it was my second job on Wall Street. I was working at J.C. Bradford, which back then was the largest regional firm in Nashville, Tennessee. Nashville back then was 4 blocks. Very different today. And I worked for a technology analyst. And I was actually really surprised that he hired me because I knew nothing about technology. I didn't have my MBA at that point, but he was willing to teach me. And he started putting trade journals on my desk. So these are technology trade journals. And remember, I told you, I don't know anything about technology. The computer just had come out. The PC was just entering the business world.
Right.
Very early. And I start reading these papers, and he says, in about 6 months, you actually might understand this. And I would have to sit and read these trade journals every day. And I just had a headache. There was no dictionary on what a technology word was. There was no Google. And I would make a list of words and go into him and get definitions. And I would say after 6 months, he sat me down. He says, you'll probably understand this now, and laid out what his vision was for his companies in technology. So I am so grateful because I'm still using that knowledge today, right? Last year, I really liked semiconductors.
Right.
And I kept saying that there's a cycle. You have semiconductors, you have hardware, you have software. And we're in the software phase, but I'm getting a little out of my skis on that one. But I started studying crypto and I stayed with it. I just remembered that time of, okay, Marianne, it may take you a while to understand this, but if you stay with it, you will. And I did. I stayed with it. And I would not consider myself an expert. It's constantly evolving and changing. This is a new technology. But I would say I have a foundational understanding. And my view of Bitcoin, my original view, that something digital, that view has not changed.
Well, it's really so that it continues to kind of go through and develop and is actually becoming more and more commonplace. Let's talk a little bit about what exactly the technology behind it is. Blockchain, right? And Can you, in very, very layman terms, kind of explain what that blockchain is and how that connects with cryptocurrency?
Blockchain has been around for years. Banks use it. When I was at Bank of America at the time, they had 23 patents on blockchain. So
Really?
blockchain is new, but it's not that new. It is considered the most secure software we have today. Now, I hate using the word secure because nothing is secure. All right.
Right.
What happens is we develop a better piece of software, harder to hack into, and then the hackers figure it out. Then we build something better than the hacker. This is how the world works, right?
Right.
So nothing's ever 100% secure, but it is considered the best technology that we have. And the reason why it's harder to hack is, think of a chain link. You know how a chain has a link and then you add another link?
Right.
And I don't have multiple hands and then I just keep adding links.
Right.
It's harder to hack something that's constantly linked together. And blockchain forms these links.
Okay.
And so essentially it's the best software that we have out there today.
Okay. So how does that apply to
Bitcoin.
cryptocurrency? Yep.
Okay. Bitcoin trades on the blockchain. Now, I've come up with an analogy for people to try to understand. I find that there's a generational divide on Bitcoin. If you take a 20-year-old and ask them for $5, they have no coins, no dollars anywhere. They're not using currency. In fact, this is a little bit of an offshoot, but did you know that President Trump has ordered no more minting of the penny?
I saw that. Wonder what coin's next, right?
Exactly, because it costs us more to print them than the actual face value. And I wrote in my report this week, this is the beginning of getting rid of currency as we know it. We're going to start with coins and then we're going to go to paper. So Bitcoin actually is considered a store of value that trades on the blockchain. Now, the younger generation, because they've grown up with technology and they feel secure and safe with technology, they use it. So if you ask some of them if they own Bitcoin, I bet you're going to find many of them do. The generation, like my generation and older, that did not grow up with technology, we can't feel it, we can't touch it. At least with gold, you can touch gold. You can buy physical gold. Bitcoin is out in the ether, right? It's not tangible to us. So the older generation that's not used to technology really has a hard time struggling with it. And I'm like, that's okay. You don't have to get on board. I said, but the train's already left the station, right? The train of crypto is already moving. Now, to help people that are skeptics to understand it, is many people are familiar with Star Trek. I've always liked sci-fi, so I'm a little familiar. It's not like I'm a true Trekkie, but
right.
What I realized is the technology that we've been using for years originated on Star Trek. So think about Kirk and the flip phone.
Right.
We had a flip phone. Go to Star Trek: The Next Generation and look at their consoles, their iPads.
Huh.
They had drones. We now have drones. Aurora talked into an earpiece. How many people today, whether you're on a train or walking on an airplane, people are talking and there's no person because they're talking to the thing in their ear.
Right.
Right. So what's the currency on Star Trek?
Yeah, that's where you lose
a lot of people.
Yeah, I have no idea.
So if you Google it, they actually had two forms of currency. One was called latinum, and it was such a precious metal, it had to be infused in gold. So they had that. Then they had something called credits. Okay. So what's blockchain? Now I'm going to get really now into what blockchain is. Blockchain is a ledger of debits and credits. And everything is verified on the blockchain. And you have to have multiple verifications. So think of it, it gets time stamped And there's several programmers that have to stamp that this actually did occur and happen. Well, I said debits, credits. So credits are on Star Trek. Bitcoin trades on the blockchain ledger. It will become a form of a credit. It will be the asset, or think of it as the internet cash. The one thing that's always been missing from the internet is cash on the internet. People will come back and look like, well, we got PayPal, we have Zillow, we have Zelle, we have credit cards. Like, yeah, but they're not digital currency. They're forms of payment.
Got it.
Bitcoin, I believe, will be used as a form of payment.
How long until that happens?
Well, it's technically already happened. The question is on a broader scale. Well, something that I'm watching very closely is President Trump has talked about creating a Bitcoin reserve.
Right, right.
If he creates a Bitcoin reserve, I think you're going to see more and more adoption of Bitcoin. And what you really need to do is to get businesses to accept it as a medium of financial exchange. And oh, can I give you a great story? This is a great story.
100%. Yeah.
So there's a place here. It's called the Center for Safety and Change in the town that I live in. I live in Rockland County. And a good friend of mine had me go to their charity event. And I wanted to learn more, and I met with the director and learned more about what they did. And then I was telling her a little bit about myself and how I took courses in crypto. She said, "You're the person I need to talk to." I'm like, "Why?" "How do I accept donations in crypto?"
Oh.
We have people that want to give us donations through crypto. So I think as things evolve, you're going to see more and more people willing to adopt it.
Let me make sure that I understand. There's this technology called blockchain that basically keeps records of every single transaction. I sell you Bitcoin, you sell me Bitcoin, back and forth, whether you're a retailer or whatever. There's these records of it that happen. So that makes it more secure because you have the records of what has happened as opposed to dollars. Is that?
What makes it secure is the links. Blockchain is a link technology. It links, every transaction stays with the original transaction.
Okay, so it would be like you hand me a paper dollar, we would know that my great-great-grandfather had that very same dollar, hypothetically, right?
Correct. It would stay with it, the original.
And so that's where the value of it is, in that you would be able to tell when you had that coin.
You have a whole history. Just like an accountant may have a whole ledger of your finances, you have a whole ledger of all the transactions.
And
the thing that people don't realize, Wall Street will be transferred to the blockchain. You will be, when you buy and sell a house, how many pieces of paper do you have to sign?
Right. Yeah.
That's all going to go away. It's all going to be done on the blockchain.
Because that's a secure way of knowing where it is. That
it's secure, it's stored, right? It's going to be stored in the cloud. And every transaction will be linked. So
why currency on it? Does it really matter to me that that paper dollar was owned by Joe Smith 10 years ago?
Not to the younger generation. Maybe to the older generation, not to the younger generation. It's just a medium of exchange. It's like what has amazed me with younger people, because Bitcoin is the most volatile asset I have seen in my entire career. This is not for the faint of heart. It goes up and down 80 to 100% regularly every few years. You know, it's fine when it goes up that much, but when it goes down, it's very painful.
Right.
Look, you know, let's say you have $100,000. If it goes down 50%, you went from 100,000 to 50,000.
Right.
That's hard to stomach for a lot of people. Younger people don't care, and they just know it goes up and down. And that really surprised me that they didn't have a problem with that. They're like, yeah, this is what it does. But over time, I've noticed I've made money.
Right. Right. So what are ways to get engaged and involved? Or that's probably the next question. The first question would be so the belief that Bitcoin has a value really is all about the market forces and supply and demand, right?
All buy and sell. It's just like art, although I understand art is tangible. Bitcoin is not. It's how do you value a Rembrandt, a Monet, a Pollock? It's based on last sale. I mean, there was a piece of artwork that sold, I think it was for $6 million. That was a blank canvas with a real banana on it with duct tape.
Right.
And oh, you bought the rights to change the banana because it's gonna do well over time, right? Doesn't last forever. How many people really think that's worth $6 million? A blank canvas with duct tape and your own banana. But somebody was willing to pay $6 million for it. So that's the value. Same thing with Bitcoin.
So it's all about our belief there. And so how's this different than tulips? Because that's what a lot of, especially in the older generation, view it as, that there's nothing behind it.
I understand that there's nothing tangible behind it, but let's look at the US dollar. What's really behind the US dollar?
Right. Our belief that it's worth 100 pennies.
And the government backs it.
Got
So
it.
the concern is there's no government that backs Bitcoin, but that's why it was created. The people that created Bitcoin and are in the crypto space don't want to be regulated necessarily. They don't want to be told, oh, you can only do banking from 9 to 5. Well, if I want to do a transaction, I want to do it now. And,
Right.
and the crypto space allows you to do that. So those are some of the reasons why it happened. I understand there's nothing tangible, but especially if Trump creates a reserve of Bitcoin, to me, it would be another statement that it's being validated as a medium of exchange.
So if I go to one of these providers and I buy a Bitcoin, which would cost me a lot of money today, but I go and I actually buy a Bitcoin. Where do I store it and how do I keep it safe? There's some of these different types of wallets.
Okay, so everything that I mentioned is basically well, I don't know like where Robinhood, Fidelity, and Schwab are actually storing. They may have wallets and they may have insurance. That's what you would want to check on. Coinbase will hold it, and I have insurance on it. The belief a number of years ago is that the safest place you could put your Bitcoin was on like a little USB. And Bitcoin is actually, what people don't understand is that little USB does not have your Bitcoin, it has your password to the blockchain where Bitcoin is stored. So Bitcoin never leaves the blockchain. And that's called a cold wallet. There's something called a ledger that gives you this little USB port where you can store your password. And why a lot of people don't want to do that is if you lose your password, you lose your crypto. There's
Right.
there's no help desk. There's no reset your password. And I've known professional people that will have it on on these little USB ports, and they have multiples of them. And some have gone as far as to have them in various different countries.
Wow. Oh, that just sounds beyond complex. So you've got your ETFs.
A lot of individual investors haven't really gone into it. Even if they liked it, they're like, this is too complicated.
Right.
So I think as it gets easier, which it is, right? Because we now have ETFs, but they're not necessarily FDIC insured, right?
Right.
You can easily buy in and sell it now through an ETF, but not all crypto is available on an ETF, right? Right now, we only have Bitcoin and Ethereum.
Let's talk about what makes those two unique and what's the difference between them.
Well, I know everything is called a cryptocurrency, but Bitcoin is truly the only currency.
Okay.
All the others are basically securities, in my view. They just created a major loophole avoiding the SEC and registration by calling themselves cryptocurrencies and that they were different. But the SEC is catching up with them. Bitcoin is considered a store of value. What's also interesting, because Bitcoin is maybe around 95, 96. It's 95,523 as we speak. I just checked. Most people don't have that kind of money, but when you trade on the blockchain, you can do fractional portions. So you don't have to buy a full Bitcoin. If you want to buy $100 worth, you can just buy $100 worth of Bitcoin. That's a new major technological advancement. And just to throw that in there, there's a company called Robinhood. They're a think of them as an online brokerage firm,
Right.
are now doing fractional shares on equities.
Right.
And I told you, Wall Street's going to the blockchain. Things are going to change. This is a heightened or rapid period of innovation. It's artificial intelligence, it's blockchain, it's Web3, which is the whole crypto space that we didn't even fully get into. It's virtual reality because now you can buy these fancy glasses from Meta.
Right.
I remember it had to be 10 years ago. It was a documentary on students at MIT that had these sci-fi goggles on, essentially. And they're like, we're going to be able to talk to these. Because our human brain can only store so much information and recall that there's a certain amount of recall and information. Like I'll be able to look at you, and let's say I forget your name because it's not up there. My glasses will tell me who you are. That was 10 years ago.
Right.
The students were talking about that. There's technology in the labs that's way beyond where we're functioning. And we just got ChatGPT. They've got multiple layers. Everybody got scared about DeepSeek. They copied everything and used NVIDIA chips, and it cost them a lot more than people thought. But it just tells you the pace of evolution, right? And that people are adapting and learning newer ways. And now I forget my point that I was going to try to make. That's okay.
Yeah, we were talking about kind of the differences in how technologically is advanced and what kind of makes.
Things in 5 years will be dramatically different. How we work will be dramatically different. I already have colleagues using ChatGPT that said that their productivity has enhanced greatly.
Wow.
Right? Because a lot of their reading, things that they normally would have to sit down and read in depth, they can do summaries of. Crafting various different documents. You can get a format and then edit it. So if you look at Salesforce.com, it's getting a little bit off topic, but the CEO is talking about what's called AI agents. In fact,
Right.
NVIDIA's CEO is also talking about AI agents, where you will basically have an AI assistant help you work. So not replace you,
Right.
not replaced, but you have somebody working alongside of you that's a piece of technology to enhance your productivity.
And that all of that is that blockchain and all of that.
Well, that's not necessarily all blockchain. The point is how fast-paced we are now in the evolution of creating and adopting technology.
Got it.
Right?
Got it.
It took us, do you remember modems?
Right. Yeah. The beep, beep, beep.
And then that's how you transfer data.
Right.
Then we created the internet. Well, the adoption rate took years. How fast did we adopt ChatGPT? Overnight.
That's right.
So that's what I mean by fast pace. Having technology is allowing a faster and faster pace, and for the cost to come down faster so you can have more adoption.
Which means, and just translating that, this idea of this Bitcoin and crypto inside of there, the adoption, aside from just being an investment vehicle, using it as a currency in the case of Bitcoin, the adoption of that is just going to, in effect, be parabolic or exponential, right?
I believe so. And this is going to sound morbid, but I don't mean it to be morbid, but it is morbid. As the baby boomer generation moves on, transitions, the younger generation is just going to use it,
That's right.
right? So the stuck in the mud is, and I'm being general, right? It's generational. And once the generations come up that are younger that adapted technology, they're all going to be in it. I mean, the other big concern I hear is what happens if the electricity goes out?
Right. Yeah.
It's a good point. Don't have electricity. But the point is you can't access anything. You can't even get to your bank,
Right.
right? Maybe the bank can give you money, but if they have to use a computer and a machine, it ain't working without electricity. We're already dependent on electricity. Unless you have physical money stashed away under your mattress the old-fashioned way. And then the thing is, if you're the only one with money, you don't want anybody to know you have money.
That's right. That's right.
You go down a very dark rabbit hole with that one. Very dark rabbit hole. So here's the point. You don't have to adopt Bitcoin. It's not mandatory, right? It's not something you have to have in your portfolio. And as I said, it is extremely volatile. You know, Bitcoin is normally up 3 years in a row and then it goes down sharply. It's up 3 years and down. Now, the behavior might change because we are seeing more and more adoption and there's more and more money moving into it. So the cycles can change. But it's not going away. If you think about it, the algorithm, so there's an algorithm with Bitcoin where only 21 million Bitcoin is to be created, or what's called mined.
Gotcha.
And that's to make it scarce like gold. Like I get questions, well, can that be changed? Well, as far as I know, no. I don't know, and no government owns it. It's completely decentralized. There's no owner of Bitcoin. There's no one chief commander.
Gotcha.
It's
Gotcha.
global in nature. So there's only 21 million. If it does get adopted as a medium of exchange, just do the math. There's 7 or 8 billion people in the world.
You can't even comprehend.
I mean, you can go to stupid numbers, really stupid numbers very fast. There is a company that used to be called MicroStrategy that's called Strategy now, that basically is a depository for Bitcoin. Think of it as a treasury-like, that they've created it themselves because they so believe in Bitcoin, and they trade more volatile on a daily basis than Bitcoin. And that's run by Michael Saylor.
Right.
His prediction in the next 20 or 30 years is that Bitcoin will be $13 million.
Wow. Wow.
As it gets adopted, and as we can't make any more Bitcoin, it becomes a scarcity. Now, if you go to countries that don't have a good banking system, don't have a good government, so you're really talking about emerging markets. Many in the emerging markets have adopted cryptocurrencies in general, and Bitcoin. And even though they might be very poor and be in a poor country, everybody, oh, you can't see this, everybody has a cell phone, right? Everybody has one of these.
Right.
And that's all you need in order to transact. So believe it or not, the adoption in the emerging markets has been faster.
That's pretty incredible, right? You would think almost the exact opposite
Right.
would be inside there.
But let me talk about Ethereum, because Ethereum is very different and all the other cryptos are very different. So Bitcoin's a medium of exchange. Whether you agree or not, that's how it's being perceived. Ethereum, Solana, Chainlink, RPX are all pieces of technology. So Solana and Ethereum compete with one another. So how can I put this so you can understand it? Remember Lotus 123?
Right.
And then all of a sudden Excel came around. And Excel won, Microsoft.
Right.
I don't even remember who owned Lotus 123.
IBM,
And
I think.
there was something also called Quattro Pro. And there was another thing that very few people knew was Framework. I used all of them because I worked for a technology analyst. I had to learn all of them. So think of right now that Ethereum is trying to be Microsoft.
Okay.
But now there's Solana that's competing with Ethereum that says that they're more efficient and transactions cost less. So are they Lotus 1, 2, 3? Or are they going to be something even better than what Microsoft was? Nobody knows.
Right.
But Ethereum has not been able to go to a new record high because of this competition coming up with Solana. Think of this as the early days of the internet, and we had all these different companies, and we didn't know who was going to be the winner or the loser. That's where we are in the crypto space. There's going to be a lot of losers and a few big, very big winners. So when you have a situation like that, but you want to invest, because you don't really know who's, except for Bitcoin, I'm talking Bitcoin's one, all the other cryptos, you kind of buy a basket of them and pray that, out of, let's say you buy 10 different ones, you buy $200 each, right? And you have a basket of 10. You pray that you got a winner in there.
Because that winner is going to make up for more than any of the losses.
Yeah, that's what venture capital does, right? Venture capital gives out a lot of money, and they know a lot of the companies they give money to are going to fall flat on their face. They just need that one real big one.
Right.
And it pays for everything and more. So it's still very early in crypto land, and we still need more clarity and regulation. And with Trump in office and a crypto person, the world of, we call it DeFi, decentralized finance, so it's DeFi for short. The world of DeFi has been asking for more clarity and regulation, and there's a good chance we get it under a Trump administration. And if you can get more clarity and regulation, then you can get faster adoption.
That makes sense.
Right. Look at CEO of Bank of America. When he was at I think he was at Davos. That's Brian Moynihan.
Right.
He was asked, would Bank of America ever go into crypto? And he basically said, if the regulations allow it. Right now, they can't.
Right.
What happens if the banks are allowed to go into the crypto space? You would see Bitcoin fly.
Especially if the U.S. has a reserve currency of it, or has a reserve of it.
Correct. Now, I've heard Trump speak that it could be an offset to the deficit. In other words, you put so much in, and over time, Bitcoin is expected to go up, and that would be part of an offset for the deficit. I think that could work. I don't know if they would need new congressional legislation for that, but that's actually, I think that could work. And that would definitely validate Bitcoin as a form of currency. I mean, in my Star Trek sci-fi world, I could envision, and this is not going to be in our lifetime, but I can envision a world currency. In fact, the World Bank already has a digital token.
Yeah, that scares some people, but
you have a universal form of payment. You don't have appreciation and depreciation among countries right now. Right now, you're seeing the euro come down, depreciate. The yen recently was depreciating against the dollar. If you're just trading in one currency, you don't have all this volatility in the exchange rate.
Right.
It's one currency. So, and again, that could be in 100 years, though.
Right.
But I could see us moving on that path. But first, we have to get central banks that adopt a stable coin, right? I'm sure at some point the Federal Reserve will create a stable coin. There's already stable coins out there. A stable coin is similar to the dollar, but it's digital. And you would only want to own a stable coin that actually holds US dollars. And there are stable coins out there like that. So there is digital US dollar already out there in crypto space, and it doesn't move. And some platforms will actually give you a yield, but that's getting into a different direction.
All different.
I think once you see central banks developing their own digital currency, that would be another confirmation the world is going digital. It's really, to me, just digital.
It is a whole bunch to think about. Marianne, I want to say thank you because I think that you shed some light on some areas that people have no idea. And my big takeaway is there's no reason to be scared of it. It's real.
It's real. It's going to stay here, but it doesn't mean that you have to be in it. If it scares you, then don't be in it. But if you're interested, maybe you dip your toe in, right? You don't have to put a ton of, as I said, you can buy fractional shares of Bitcoin. You don't have to put a lot of money in. And you can just watch it. So when you're at that dinner party, you can say, oh yeah, I have crypto. Yeah, I have Bitcoin.
It's all about the cocktail parties. That's right.
Oh, definitely about the cocktail parties.
Well, Marianne, thank you so much. Absolutely appreciate this. Would love to have you back to actually talk a little bit about some more of the differences between some of the ones that are out there. And I just want to say thank you.
You're very welcome. Pleasure's all mine.
Awesome. And we will see everyone next week on another edition of Wealth Strategies Unleashed.
The information contained herein is intended to be used for educational purposes only and is not exhaustive. Diversification and/or any strategy that may be discussed does not guarantee against investable losses, but are intended to help manage risk and return. If applicable, historical discussions and/or opinions are not predictive of future events. The content is presented in good faith and has been drawn from sources believable to be reliable. The content is not intended to be legal, tax, or financial advice. Please consult a legal, tax, or financial professional for information specific to your individual situation.
This work is powered by Concenture Wealth Management, registered representative of Sanctuary Securities, Inc., an investment advisor of Sanctuary Advisors, LLC. Securities offered through Sanctuary Securities, Inc., member FINRA, SIPC. Advisor services offered through Sanctuary Advisors, LLC, an SEC registered investment advisor. Concenture Wealth Management is a DBA of Sanctuary Securities, Inc., and Sanctuary Advisors, LLC.